Amy Everett for the Suburban Chateau, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be launching a new series of videos about inspiration and how I, as a homeowner, get inspiration from different types of media, YouTube, all of those things. But today we're going to be focusing on print media. I started to decorate in the early 90s as a homeowner, and back in those days we didn't have YouTube and all these other Pinterest and things at our fingertips, but we did have a lot of abundant and beautiful print media, different books, many designers that I took a lot of inspiration from, and as well as magazines and publications that I can't wait to share with you as well. So here we go, our design inspiration. Today our topic is print media. Now, when I was just a single gal starting out in our little hometown of Hollidaysburg, PA, I rented for my very first year of living here from a wonderful lady. She was sort of an important person in our town, and her name was Barbara. And Barbara and I were kindred spirits. We loved everything antique and old. She would take me antiquing with her, and we just I really enjoyed living in her home in downtown Hollidaysburg. I rented a little third floor apartment. But she had such a profound influence on me and kind of getting me started with print media, and especially in the early 90s. I actually lived with her when I was doing my student teaching in 1990. And she bought me my first subscription as I think it was my graduation gift from college. She bought me a subscription to the wonderful Victoria magazine. This is one of my very first, I think this is this is in the early 90s. But I have every single issue of all the Victoria magazines over the years. And they took a little break in the early 2000s, but then came back strong, and they're still publishing today. Victoria magazine is an amazing publication, and I would say it's the jump-off point for my style. And I would definitely say Victorian, romantic, cottage, all of those words could be described to kind of describe my style altogether. And Victoria magazine has always been such an amazing inspiration for me. Nancy Lindemeyer was the editor-in-chief when this first came out, and what I've done is I have organized my Victoria magazines by the issues. So right now I'm holding all my December issues that are all together. And I just find that personally, when I'm decorating, it's usually for a specific time of year. So these are all my Christmas, of course, December issues are all my holiday inspiration, and I put them all in one file box. That way, when I was looking for inspiration, I could find it by the time of year. So I found that was a very useful way to store these magazines. And the biggest thing about Victoria magazine that's pretty amazing is the photography. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that when I get to some of my books as well, because not only did Victoria put together an amazing magazine full of all kinds of inspiration, but also they did amazing books as well. Now, the first books I want to mention have to do just with that Victoria magazine. And Victoria magazine was, of course, a publication, early 90s, late 80s got started. Nancy Lindemeyer was the editor-in-chief, but many of the photos were then compiled into different books and then released through the Hearst publications. And the one I'm holding right here is one of my absolute favorites. It's called At Home with White. Now, I wouldn't say that I have decorated any bit of my home in just white, but I've always been inspired by white, and I just kept coming back to this book. It had all kinds of different inspiration pictures. A lot of them had been in the Victoria magazine, but then they put them back into a book for you to sort of come back to and have a hard copy of. In addition to this, I easily have 30 books that were compiled by Victoria magazine. I should probably go count them because I'm sure I have a lot more than that. Here's one, Decorating with Wallpaper, and they have all different kinds of wallpaper inspiration. And I was very inspired by wallpaper when we first got our house, and that was something I did. I know early on I was big into stenciling, and then I found wallpaper and I was sold because it was readily available in the 90s when we were setting up housekeeping. So that one's one. Behind me I have a couple more. The Romance of Hats. I've always been a big hat fan, so that was a biggie for me. At Home with Roses, The Passionate Shopper, Secret Sources for Your Home. Great book. But there's Intimate Home, there's Blue and White, Living with Blue and White, all kinds of different things. Definitely some tea books that I definitely have with Victoria. I'll bet easily I have 30 books from the Victoria publications. So they were a great jump off point, and thank you to my friend Barbara, who got me started out with Victoria magazine and then into some of the wonderful hardcover books. Next, I'm going to talk about a designer that very much inspired me through her books, and this is Rachel Ashwell. Today I was out shopping and I bought something that Rachel Ashwell designed. So I'm a big fan of shabby chic. One of the books I also have that I don't think I have sitting here is California Cottages. And I feel like that's such a big jump off point as well. And a lot of the California Cottages were things that were inspiring to Rachel Ashwell as well. She lived out in California when she started her career. And she is just an amazing designer. She took some of that painted furniture, peeling paint, the shabby, and put it together with over-the-top fabrics, beautiful floral prints, and she coined the phrase, of course, shabby chic. I have a shabby chic cover right now on my bed, right now, as we speak. Used to get those at Target, and that was just such a great inspiration for me, especially the beautiful cotton prints. I just absolutely love the prints that she designs. I have every single one of Rachel Ashwell's books, and her style has kind of evolved since the 90s. And, starting out, this is one of my first ones. Here's Treasure Hunting and Decorating Guide with Rachel Ashwell. I know I have Shabby Chic Home. Here is Sumptuous Settings and Lovely Things. I have several more of her books back in my bookshelf, but I just loved her juxtaposition, I think, between some of the British inspiration, and then the painted wood, the light-hearted colors, that white, again, living with white. And so I would say when I was especially starting out as a young designer, I did a lot with painted wood. And I think there was a lot in thanks to Rachel Ashwell and her design styling. But still, today, I just bought a table runner that she designed from the Farmhouse collection. So I'm always looking for inspiration from Rachel Ashwell. Amazing. Now, when we're talking about designers, I absolutely cannot forget April Cornell. April Cornell has been a huge influence on a lot of the things in my home. You probably hear me say, oh, here's my April Cornell vintage tree skirt from the 90s. We were very fortunate. Years ago, we have a local outlet store, not about an hour and a half from here, and they had for years, maybe 10 or 15 years, they had an April Cornell outlet. Well, it was a monthly adventure down to the April Cornell outlet with some of my friends. And again, this is when I was setting up housekeeping, and always finding beautiful clothing and all kinds of gorgeous tablecloths, napkins, placemats, but just such a source of inspiration. And one of April Cornell's books I wanted to mention, because she's such an influential designer, is April Cornell at Home. And I just love some of her quilted patterns. Again, love of florals. She has the cabbage roses. And to this day, you can still get all of April Cornell's. I have a lot of her dresses from her online store. And she's just been a really big inspiration. Again, an evolving style, eclectic style, sometimes more colorful than others. Such a great use of velvet. I think that's my big inspiration from April Cornell, just always using a lot of velvet. I have so many April Cornell velvet jackets in my closet that were such an inspiration to me as well. So not only a fashion inspiration for me, but also in home decor. So I thought I'd mention April Cornell. When we're talking fashion inspiration, I cannot forget Jessica McClintock. Wonderful lady who, of course, designed the Gunny Sacks line of clothing back in the 80s. So we're going even further back in my history. But my mother and I shared a love of those Jessica McClintock Gunny Sacks dresses, and my sister too. But Mom at first would buy the Jessica McClintock patterns and make my sister and I dresses from those patterns. And then we were able to find some of the dresses. We bought them on sale. We'd wait till they're down to $5 or $10. And I have a whole costume shop back at school full of Jessica McClintock Gunny Sacks dresses that I've collected personally over the many years. And just such a huge inspiration in terms of fashion, but not only that, also in home decor. And I think just a refined elegance. I think that's the two words I could think of with Jessica McClintock's style. But this is a great book by her, Simply Romantic Decorating. And I know she has other books besides this, but I wanted to mention Jessica McClintock. I have a couple other people that have inspired me along the way in terms of decor, and some of them are a little bit more contemporary. This is the first book I ever read by Ree Drummond, and of course this is Black Heels to Tractor Wheels, and this is the story of Ladd, her husband, and how she met and married him. And it's just such a delightful story, but it started me on my Pioneer Woman excursion because I immediately went looking for her show, and later on I'm constantly buying things from Walmart that have the Pioneer Woman logo. I just literally bought a velvet jacket that she sells at Walmart, and I absolutely adore it. It's great. But I love her sense of playfulness, florals, again, love of florals. And I'm not the best chef in the world, so for me, the food isn't really a draw, but the cooking isn't a draw. The food, definitely. But anyways, I love Ree Drummond, love her style. And I especially love her fashion style as well as her home decor style. Then again, we have, here is Joe Packham. I don't know how anybody could miss this, Where Women Create. This is one of my, I do have a lot of the publications of Where Women Create, but here's one of the books. Again, taken from the pages of the publication or the magazine. And I just find these to be so inspiring. A big part for me in terms of sewing and creating is having that workspace that's well organized, and it's a constant struggle, and I take a lot of inspiration from Where Women Create. And then here's something a little bit more contemporary, and here's the Junk Gypsies. Really like them, a little bit more contemporary. I might have mentioned that we are working on an Airstream, and they're really into renovating Airstream, and they also have that sort of that prairie, cowboy boots, fringy style, and I find that eclectic mix to be a lot of fun. And I just was looking at some of my other books up here. Kath Kidston, a wonderful source of inspiration. But all of these things have just been really important inspiration for me in terms of book publications, and of course starting out with Victoria Magazine. And I'll mention a couple of magazines too that I like to look at for inspiration as well. In addition to Victoria Magazine, I have always absolutely loved romantic homes, and I have tons and tons of these saved in my collection. And I don't know how great it is to be storing magazines. I think that's been a little bit of source of frustration for me in terms of clutter, but I tend to go back to things and look at them for design inspiration. I've always loved romantic homes, also an eclectic style. I love painted furniture. There's a lot of painted furniture here, a lot with fabrics and design inspiration. So I love romantic homes. Another one of my favorite are the cottage journals. This is a Christmas cottage. This is a special publication, but just really get all kinds of inspiring ideas from the cottage journal. Country living goes back to my days in the 90s. I think it was more inspired by the country style, but I think country living has kind of updated with the farmhouse movement as well. So I love country living. I love to get ideas from country living as well. And I do hold on to these and save them all. And then here's another one that I've just really gravitated toward it in the last year or so, and that's the flea market style. And I really love the way they put things together. I would say it's a little bit more influenced by the farmhouse movement. And there's some other newer magazines that are also inspired by this, and I like to look at those as well. Country Living also has, and I didn't grab one of these, but if I can find one, I'll take a little picture of it. They have a wonderful British version of the Country Living as well that I like to look at, and it's very inexpensive to purchase. The one thing I would say between magazines and books, magazines tend to be super expensive, and I mean some of these ones, you know, that I bought recently can be up to $10 or $12 for one magazine, and sometimes you can find books for that price. So sometimes I like to find the books because they're just sort of a hardcover, easy go-to, and when I'm looking for inspiration from magazines, it's a little harder to find those. So I really hope you've enjoyed our little tour of print medium and print inspiration here at the Suburban Chateau. I've been influenced by many of these designers, and they've, you know, just the lovely lush photography in all of the books, the way they describe their style, and the function and the form of those different styles is really important as well. But check out the books. I'll take a lot of pictures and show you those as well, so you can kind of get an idea of some of the titles of some of the books that are put together by different designers. But I really highly recommend some of these print medium, and we're going to have more videos on design inspiration, and one of my favorites is going to be coming up soon, and how my grandma influenced my design style, and it's going to be one that's close to my heart, and hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. So thank you so much for joining me today on the Suburban Chateau. Please subscribe.